Hello, Art One. This is the video for your final exam. Okay, so what I'm going to show you right now is going to be what I am looking for your final project. Okay, now you'll have 2 weeks to be able to finish it. Okay, with the exception of seniors, you'll have 2 full weeks to be able to finish this. And what I am looking for is basically taking what we have learned with boxes, cylinders, cones, and spheres, and applying them into a still life that you set up and then you draw. Okay. Now I'm going to show you a couple different ways. One of how to arrange your still life. Okay. And the objects that you should pick so that you fill this up. And then on top of that, I'm going to put this onto the iPad and draw over top of the photo that I'm working with. And I'm doing that so that you can understand how to break all these objects down. Whether you realize this or not, or whether you remember this, the Monday before everything went down, because I think basically World War Z happened at Tuslaw on a Wednesday, where we had to clear out the lockers during your class, actually, where everything happened on that Wednesday. On Monday, I think it was Monday, it was either Monday or Tuesday, I introduced the project of drawing from real things. Okay, so we drew basic objects first, just those basic wooden objects. And then we were going to apply that into a still life. And I switched gears because of the whole pandemic and everything like that. So now I'm going back to where we were. So I've already given you this lesson of how to draw from life and to draw basic shapes into your common objects. But I'm going to show you a little bit better on the iPad because I think that's going to be the best way that I'm going to be able to show you. So first I'm going to show you how to set up a still life, and then after that I will show you on the iPad. So here we go. All right, so this is my still life that I'm going to be working with. And they're all objects that I had around the house, and I would say the same thing for you. Look for some objects that you can use. They don't have to have any symbolism, although mine obviously have some symbolism there with the R2-D2 and the baseball and the Office book, which, by the way, it just came out. It's a very good book, and Beastie Boys book is awesome. So looking at this, okay, what you'll notice is I have 7 objects. All right, you can have 5 objects. Okay, so you need to have at least 5, and you can go higher if you want to, but you have to have at least 5 objects and a piece of cloth running through it. Now the reason why we're using cloth is because the lines in the cloth are almost like road maps. It moves your eye around the composition. Okay, so the cloth that's back there is just giving a little bit of depth behind R2-D2, but that line of cloth. So when you're setting up your cloth, really think of it that way. How is my eye going to be, moving around the page because of the cloth? Okay. Other things that you're going to want to consider is your lighting. Okay, so whenever I'm looking at this, I actually have a light, my studio lamp or whatever, and by putting some light on it, look at how those cast shadows change up the drawing. So this is without lighting, okay? It's okay, but once you start adding some lighting, okay, well now things become a lot more interesting, okay? So also look at your angle. I'm looking at this from this angle. Maybe it's better over here, okay? Well, kind of like that, but I don't like the gap in between these two things. So maybe if I move over just a little bit, or I can even take that object and move it over, okay? But I think I'm going to stick with my original idea, but I am going to light it a little bit better. I like that because it's actually creating a little bit of a contrast between the baseball. Okay, so if we look at the baseball, it has a nice contrast in between the book there. And I think that's the image that I'm going to go with. So let's move to the iPad and I'll show you how I am going to draw it. All right, so here is the iPad version, and what I have a couple different layers up above here, and I'm going to just basically draw on top of this layer. So I'm going to first start with structure. Okay, so when we look at structure, I'm going to go on this layer, click off. Okay, structure would basically be breaking things down into the basic shapes that we had learned at the beginning of the class. Okay, so let's take something easy like this book. Well, that book is just simply a box. Okay, so I started with the corner that was closest to me right here, and I take the points back to the vanishing point. Crop it off, even though I can't see it. Take this one back to the same vanishing point that these two guys are going to, and I have a book, okay? Well, I'll do the same thing with this book. I start with the corner that's closest to me. You will notice that it's laying below that line, okay? That's where the sighting techniques come in, so you use your sighting techniques. Start with the corner that's closest to me. Take this back to the vanishing point, the same one that this is going to. This is going to the same vanishing point that this guy is going to. I crop that off. I crop this off. I've got a point here. It's going to the same vanishing point that this guy and this guy is going to. All right? So that's a basic object of a box, but put into a book form. Okay, so it's taking a box and making it into a book. Pay attention to the details, but don't get caught up in details like writing exactly what is written on there. And I definitely don't need you to write all the information that's in there. That would be crazy. Just a couple lines, maybe a little bit of squiggle here. That'll get the idea. Okay, so that's how you would tackle the books. The ball, well, that's pretty simple. It's just a sphere. And pay attention to the lighting that's going on. Okay, so right here I actually have the highlight here, and as it moves this way, and it moves in just a little bit of a bend, okay, and you'll show that with the shading. By showing that shading and getting it correct with what is actually there, it will feel like it has volume. Okay, so let's move over to the blue jug over here. This has not just a cylinder, it's got a little bit of a cone quality to it. Okay, pay attention to your ellipses. Since this is closer to my horizon line, this top ellipse is closer to my horizon line, it's going to be a thinner ellipse than the one down here. So this is going to have a wider ellipse. So make sure that you show that. And I'd say the same thing with this one. So that ellipse is going to be thinner than this one. Might be, a slight difference, but it's definitely going to be there. All right, so we look at the joystick. The joystick is basically a box that's going back in perspective. That one's steep. Crop it off, going back to the vanishing point. So that is going back into 2-point perspective. Then you have a cylinder sitting on top of it, okay, smack dab in the center. This stuff would be kind of a cone quality. So all of that can be broken down into your basic shapes, okay? And that's how I would start out, figuring out those basic shapes, okay? Figuring out that R2-D2, this trash can thing, is just a cylinder, okay? That has a dome that'll have spherical qualities on the top of it, okay? Don't get caught up in the details early on, okay? You can add those kind of things later, okay? And just structure-wise, after you have the main part of the body done, yeah, then you can add in the structure of the legs, okay? When I look at the cloth is there, again, to move your eye around, but the cloth is also filled with lines that you'll draw the outside contour and the inside contour, okay? So let's take that back a little bit so that you can see what I'm talking about. This would be the outside contour, okay? So figuring out that outside contour, yes, that's important, but then finding the inside contour, and that's what this would be. So finding that inside contour is important. Then showing volume. Now when you look at a piece of cloth, it is a cylinder, okay? So if I was drawing a topographical map, this is what that piece of cloth would look like, where it has a rounded edge. So what is happening there, let me take those off there so you can see. What is happening there is it's darker in this area. As it moves this way, it becomes a little bit lighter. So if you show that value change, this will start to be understood by the viewer as a rounded section. Okay, so adding those kind of things in will be very helpful. Getting the shading right, that will be very helpful too. Okay, so let's talk about shading. When we look at the values, you need to be using your sighting techniques, okay? Now it's pretty easy to tell that this side, right, oops, let's see here, cancel, as you can see here, turn that one on, good. Okay, so this side right here is obviously brighter than this side, okay? So we can figure that out. But what is, what is darker? This right here or this right here. It's compare and contrast is what you're going to have to do. Showing the value differences that are happening from this side of the book binding, the yellow, versus this side right there. Showing those contrasts are going to be key to making it feel three-dimensional. Okay. Now, if you'll notice, I have a whole bunch of stuff in the background. That is not important, but like we did with the basic shapes before, a negative space would be helpful. So like when I look here, if I had a dark value back behind here, and then maybe as it went this way, it becomes a little bit lighter. Okay, that dark value will help to bring out this part of the cup, the mug, and then as it moves this way, it'll help move my eye around. Okay, so pay attention to the cast shadows. They're very important. Okay, draw what you see, not what you know. Okay, that's kind of what we did with the basic objects before. So if you have any questions while you're working on this, don't hesitate to message me. I can answer your questions, or at least try to answer your questions virtually. I'll do the best that I can. So yeah, just make sure that you message me if you're stuck. If you'll notice, I am working on a photo. I want you to be working from life. Okay, so on one of your sheets of paper, set it up. You might have to, get a book to draw on or something like that. But draw from life as opposed to just working off a photograph, because a photograph is just a basic two-dimensional. It has flattened it for you. The photo has been flattened for you, and you just are copying two-dimensional to two-dimensional. A real artist can break things from three-dimensional down into two-dimensional, and that's what I want you to push for. All right, so I hope that explains everything of what I'm looking for and what I expect. Okay, I want a full-page drawing of a still life with the shading, with everything like that. Keep in mind, your final exam is a major portion of your overall grade, so don't just take it as, well, I'm just done. No, really put some effort into this one so that the end result is something that I can grade and I can see it as worthy of the percentage that it does carry. I mean, no matter what, your final exam carries a huge weight, especially in a semester class. So just make sure that you take your time with it. Get the shading done. I have the dates in Google Classroom. Make sure that you put everything into Google Classroom by the dates that need to be there. Seniors, you're a little bit earlier, just because of obvious reasons, but just make sure that it is done and done well. I hope everybody has a great summer. That's kind of weird that I have to say that via video chat, but I hope everybody has a great summer, and I can't wait to see you guys next year. So I'll see you soon.